Hi everyone, welcome back. We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. My name is Jason. After my girlfriend made it normal to look down on my life, mock where I came from, and treat me like I wasn't enough, I knew I couldn't just sit in silence anymore. She had gotten so used to belittling me that it became routine. Every word, every insult, every jab chipped away at the way I saw myself, until one day, I realized I needed to do something she would never expect. And when I did it, she never thought I had it in me. Kathleen and I grew up in the same neighborhood in a regular community. We weren't best friends or anything like that back then, but we knew each other. She lived a few blocks from me. I'd see her around. She was always easy to recognize because she is cute and carried herself well even as a kid. For a short while, we even went to the same middle school. That was before things changed in my family. My parents started fighting more often, and eventually they separated. I had to move in with my dad in a different part of town. It was a hard shift, but I learned to live with it. Still, I visited my mom from time to time, and when I did, I'd sometimes spot Kathleen in the neighborhood. At the time, we weren't talking because we never got that close. But we followed each other on Instagram. We both kind of knew the other existed, but that was about it. Even though we never really spoke much, I always thought she was beautiful. I had this quiet crush on her that I kept to myself and never made a move. I watched from the sidelines thinking maybe one day. But back then, that one day felt far away. Life was happening and everything that kept me distracted. Looking back now, I think part of me liked the idea of her more than anything else. But the truth is, we were still strangers, even after all those years. As we got older, our lives naturally started heading in different directions. Kathleen went the academic route. She got into college, moved out of the neighborhood, and focused hard on her studies. After some years, she graduated and landed a solid job with one of the country's big food processing companies. It suited her. I took a different route. College just wasn't for me. Not because I wasn't smart, I just didn't see the point of spending 4 or 5 years chasing a certificate when I had something more solid right in front of me. My dad owned a small real estate company. He'd been in the business for years, knew how to buy, sell, manage, and negotiate property deals like it was second nature. I'd spent a lot of time around him growing up, watching how he worked with people, how he handled pressure, how he made money from nothing but land and grit. So instead of filling out university forms, I asked him to let me join him. He didn't hand me a title or give me a desk and say, "Here, start earning." No, he made me learn everything from scratch. How to speak to clients, how to assess property value, how to close deals. I worked my way up like any other employee. Slowly, steadily, I built a name for myself. While my old classmates were still figuring out internships or stressing over final exams, I was already making real money, handling my own listings, shaking hands with clients, and stacking real experience. We were both doing well, but in very different worlds. She had her polished office life, and I had my hustle on the streets and in boardrooms. One night, I was exhausted. Work had left me drained, and I just needed something to take my mind off things. So after having a shower, I lay back on the couch and started scrolling through Instagram, going through stories, pictures, and memes. Then I noticed Kathleen posted a selfie with good lighting on her story. She looked peaceful and pretty. And without thinking too much, I tapped reply. I typed, "You better take it easy before you're beauty blind someone out here." As soon as I hit send, I froze. In that moment, I felt ridiculous. I looked at the message again and started regretting it immediately. It sounded cheesy, like something out of a teenage rom-com. I started imagining all the ways it could go wrong. What if she thought I was being weird? What if she rolled her eyes and blocked me? We hadn't really talked in ages. I didn't want to come off like some random guy trying too hard. So I picked up my phone again, fingers ready to unsend the message before she saw it. But before I could even press anything, her reply came in. She'd laughed, sent back something like, "Then go blind," with a laughing emoji. And man, the wave of relief that washed over me. I smiled without even meaning to. She wasn't offended. She didn't think it was awkward. She thought it was funny. And in that moment, we just kept talking. What started as a single reply turned into a full conversation. We talked about work, random things from our neighborhood, and how long it had been since we'd seen each other. She was just easy to talk to. Not stiff or awkward like I'd worried. She had this natural, friendly energy. And as we kept chatting, I found myself wondering why we hadn't talked like this sooner. The friendship between Kathleen and me grew slowly, but surely. We started talking more regularly. Then we began meeting up in person, grabbing coffee here and there, going for walks, and talking late into the evening about everything from work to life goals. Those moments felt real. I started to see her not just as the girl from the neighborhood I used to crush on, but as someone I genuinely enjoyed being around. After a while, I found out she was single. Her college relationship had ended a while back, and she seemed ready to move forward. I won't lie, part of me was nervous, but the connection we had built gave me the confidence to ask her out. And to my surprise, she said yes. That marked the beginning of our relationship. We started dating, and for a while, it felt like we were figuring out life together. I was doing well in real estate, making decent money, and growing my own list of clients. She was settling into her job too, and it felt like we were both moving in a positive direction. But as time passed and we got more comfortable with each other, something in her changed. The person I thought I knew started revealing a different side. She would make comments about my family or where I came from. She would bring up my parents' divorce, the back and forth I had to go through as a kid, and how messy things were. These were things I had shared with her in confidence, moments from my past that had left real scars, and she used them like punchlines. At first, I kept quiet. People say that when you ignore some things, they go away. I told myself maybe she didn't realize how her words sounded. I hoped she'd stop. But she didn't. If anything, the comments became more frequent, more careless. Inside, it started eating at me. After about a year together, right around when she got promoted at her job, her attitude went from bad to worse. She started acting like she was above me, more successful, more cultured, more deserving of certain things. And I was just there. That's when I started speaking up. I stopped letting the comments slide. If she said something that crossed the line, I called it out. I just told her plainly that it wasn't okay. Most times, she got defensive, claimed she was just joking, that I was too sensitive. But I stood my ground, and slowly, the obvious disrespect reduced. But the peace didn't last long. New problems started creeping in. She'd pick fights over tiny things, and we didn't even live together. She'd compare me to men dating her friends, guys I barely knew, telling me what they were buying for their girlfriends, where they were traveling, and what kind of cars they drove. Then she'd follow it up with demands, things that weren't needed. And whenever I said no or tried to explain why it didn't make sense, she'd lose it, throw tantrums, accuse me of not loving her enough. All of this started building something toxic between us. I felt like I was constantly walking on eggshells, trying to manage her moods while also holding myself together. I wasn't happy. I was just trying to survive the relationship. The real breaking point for me didn't come out of nowhere. It built up over the years. But the moment it all hit me like a punch to the gut was during one ugly fight. We had been arguing that day when she came over that weekend. I can't even remember what started it because, honestly, it didn't take much anymore. But then she said something I'll never forget. She brought up my parents' divorce and said some crazy thing about my parents and why things ended. I just stood there, staring at her, wondering how someone who claimed to love me could reach that deep into my past when we are having a disagreement. See, my parents splitting up was one of the hardest things I went through growing up. It messed with my head more than I ever told anyone. And Kathleen knew that. She knew it wasn't just some random fact about me. It was part of my story. Something I carried quietly. And for her to use it against me, to humiliate me in the middle of an argument, was something I couldn't wrap my head around. That wasn't just crossing a line. That was her spitting on everything I had survived. After that, something changed in me. I didn't even yell back, defend myself, or try to explain why what she said hurt so much. I just went quiet. And for the first time in that relationship, I seriously considered walking away. I thought about ending it right then and there. But something held me back, not because I still had hope, but because I realized she was too comfortable and too used to having me absorb everything she threw my way without consequences. We had stopped talking about anything real for a long time. Unless the topic was about her, she didn't care. That fight just confirmed what I had been feeling for months. There was no connection left and no respect. Still, instead of breaking up with her on the spot, I made a different decision. I wasn't going to end things. Not yet. I wanted her to see what it felt like when the person you think you have wrapped around your finger suddenly stops playing the game. I was going to let her feel the silence, the distance, the weight of what she had turned the relationship into. For the next month, I changed completely. I stopped arguing. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped pointing out when Kathleen was wrong or when she crossed the line. I just let her talk. Whatever she said, I let it slide. I didn't correct her tone. I didn't defend myself. I gave her silence and agreement. It wasn't because I had suddenly stopped caring about what was happening between us, but because I needed to see what she would do when I stopped resisting. And, just like I expected, she got comfortable. I made it look like I was fully in, like I was still chasing the dream of marrying her. One day, I went out, bought a basic ring, and I proposed. I told her I wanted to make things official, that I was ready for the next step. Her face lit up. She was smiling, posting about it, showing the ring to her friends. I added another layer to it. I told her that this ring was just temporary, and that the real ring, an expensive diamond one, was on its way before the wedding. That sold the fantasy even more. But even with all that, her behavior didn't change. In fact, it got worse. The way she spoke to me didn't soften. The way she treated my opinions didn't improve. She started giving me rules for our wedding. She said my family shouldn't come in numbers, that they were too much. She said the main ring had to be diamond or she wouldn't wear it. She picked out Monaco for our honeymoon like she was picking a dress out of a catalog, and didn't even ask what I thought. I just nodded through it all. She told me how much she wanted things to move quickly. I agreed. I told her to go ahead and begin planning. I even suggested that she use her own money for now, just to get things moving, since we were both busy. She didn't hesitate. Not for a second. She started spending, telling everyone she was getting married, talking about it at work, on social media, and even with family friends. And every time she gave me updates about the dress, the venue, the bridal shower, I just smiled. Even when I could tell she was being reckless with money, I never questioned it. I made it look like I trusted her completely, and she believed every bit of it. From that moment after that fight, I started planning my way out. I went online that same week and booked a solo trip to Spain. It was a place I'd always wanted to visit. But with Kathleen, she believed Spain wasn't worth the hype. She wanted Dubai and Paris. She also wanted an expensive travel, first class, 5-star hotels, private tours, for posts for Instagram. That's why we never actually go anywhere. Now that I have a plan, I picked the dates, paid for the flight with my own money, and kept it quiet. I didn't tell a soul, except my father. I told him straight, I need a break. I'm leaving the country. Please don't tell anyone until I'm gone. He understood. Then I went to my mom's house, gave her a hug, told her I loved her, and said goodbye. Kathleen had no clue. In her mind, we were deep in wedding plans. She thought she was in control, and that's exactly what I needed her to think. The night before my flight, I sent her one final message. I told her plainly, I'm ending this relationship. Your constant disrespect and unreasonable behavior have made it impossible to move forward. I'm done. As soon as the message was delivered, I blocked her number. I deleted her contact. I knew if I left a crack open, she'd try to squeeze through it with promises and performances. I wasn't interested. By the next morning, I was gone. For the first time in a long while, I felt not happy yet, but free. And that was enough. By the time I had spent a full week in Spain, I felt lighter than I had in a long time. No arguments. No stress. Just quiet mornings, good food, and fresh air that didn't come with tension. I hadn't checked my phone much, but one afternoon, a message from my best friend popped up. He said, "Bro, what's going on between you and Kathleen?" At first, I stared at the screen for a moment, not sure how deep he wanted to go with that question. I simply replied, "What about it?" Then he told me Kathleen had been blowing up his phone, trying to figure out where I was, asking if he'd heard from me, because apparently she realized she'd been blocked. I let out a breath and said, "Yeah, I ended things. It's over." He was shocked. I could feel the surprise even through the texts. He asked what happened, why I didn't talk to him first, and if there was any chance I'd change my mind. That's when I broke it down for him. I told him the truth, how the relationship had slowly become one-sided, how Kathleen made it a habit to talk down on me, to mock my past, to compare me to others, how she stopped listening unless the conversation was about her, how it got to the point that I couldn't even recognize myself anymore when I was with her. He tried to reason with me, tried to play the middleman, said maybe she didn't mean it the way I saw it. I listened, but I was done with that phase of my life. I told him, "Man, the moment I sent that message and blocked her, I felt free. And I hadn't felt that way in a long time." And it's true. The peace that followed that decision said everything I needed to know. Now looking back, there are 3 major things I took away from that relationship. First, respect is not optional. If someone keeps disrespecting you and you let it slide, they start to believe it's okay. A relationship without mutual respect is like a house with no foundation. It'll collapse, no matter how pretty it looks from the outside. Second, real communication goes both ways. I wasn't just looking for someone to talk to. I was looking for someone who would also listen, someone who could hold space for what I was going through, not just unload everything on me and call it a conversation. And third, you have to choose your self-worth over approval. I stayed for too long, trying to prove I was enough. But the truth is, once you start trying to prove your value to someone who doesn't see it, you've already lost part of yourself. Walking away felt like choosing me for the first time in years. So, to everyone watching, what do you think? Was I wrong for how I handled it? Or was it long overdue? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to hear your take on it. Let's talk.